Molly is going to look beautiful, as she always does, and try to fix the technical stuff. So, welcome to the semi-sages of the pages. Here, this episode, we're going to be reading your first pages, and Morgan has a wonderful, wonderful saying about that.
Oh, yeah, because today it snowed in California because our life is a blizzard, and the technical difficulties here are showing that our life is a blizzard. So while your life may be quite spiteful, welcome to Semi Stages with us, because our pages are going to be delightful.
All right. So I know it's been up on the screen what we're reading, but I'm going to go ahead and read it. Bear with me. My voice is a little bit hoarse. So here we go. Commander Devin Landros cycled down the engines and began the sweeping turn to head toward Pittman's dome. He engaged the autopilot and turned to his navigator, Rainer Volok. That was a good warm-up. How was the engine cycling? All the drive parameters are well within specification, he replied. We were able to sustain the fusion motors while bringing the fusion exchange up to 25%. All systems were nominal upon the return to a full fission after the test. Devin leaned back in his control chair and clasped his hands behind his head, arching and stretching his back. Well, that's good. He watched as Reiner continued to monitor the screens displaying technical data for the Wentworth. The powered turn kept them in their seats at just under 1 g of acceleration. The ship had launched outbound from the Pickett station orbiting the L4 language point in the system's Jovian planet. The defensive and monitoring stations was little more than a few habitation rings, and several of the monitoring ships were crewed by scouts on loan from the Varian expansion. Their mental abilities, Psi, allowed them to monitor the exit point of the hyperspace conduit at L4 and detect the crew aboard incoming vessels. Devin didn't understand Psi. Humans had but a nascent form of it, but it was an essential part of Valerian communication. However, it was a useful tool in humanity's defense against the ongoing threat. Devin finished his stretch and unbuckled himself in the pilot's chair. He moved back within the bridge to check the weapons and navigation consoles situated behind the drive and piloting seats. Bright green lights flanked the displays, save one that flickered, and Devin tapped the electronics cabinet while he rubbed his chin with his with his right hand. The light stopped its flicker and shone solid green. Confident his ship was ready, he returned to the piloting console. All right, so
test. Hopefully they can hear me now. Let us know in the chat if you can hear me. I'm not going to talk again until I get confirmation that you can hear me.
Please let us know if you heard Molly. All right, so what, Morgan, kind of what were your views on this?
Yeah, I was saying I really like space opera and sci-fi. I'm a big fan of sci-fi specifically. I liked how it was really clear from the first sentences where yay, Molly, they can hear you. And I really liked how it was clear what the stakes were, how we were introducing the Varian, the alien race. And we know that there's going to, be tension, like big interplanetary conflict, and that those stakes are going to be important for human survival. And I like that because right away, it's making a promise to the reader about what kind of book it is. And it's the kind of book I like. So it's got that kind of, I like a Star Wars Dune kind of space opera book. And it has a lot of those promises, I think, in it.
Yeah, I agree. I really liked how you know exactly what genre it is. You know you're in space. You know it's going to be a in space piloting book. There's a lot of description in this opening, but it's well done. And I have a lot of questions, which is good. You want there to be a lot of questions with the first page so that the reader keeps turning the page.
Yeah, I am just going to echo what you guys say now that both you and our listeners can hear me. Yay. That I love, like, right away, what book you've picked up. You know exactly what kind of book you've picked up, and that's oftentimes refreshing. I liked that a lot.
How about for even better ifs? I have an even better if.
Mm-hmm.
I like the details, but I think sometimes, especially when you have such an intricate setting, and then some really detailed like inside the ship, and then also the external setting of the ship, I felt a little bit overwhelmed by the gestures of the main characters, like putting your right hand on your chin. Like it felt a little over specified, and for me that was distracting about what I should focus on. So I would have liked more tension between, I think his name was Renor and Devin, those two characters, and less about like physically stretching and putting their hands on their back or hand on their chin. I got a lot of that, but I didn't get as much of their characterization. So on the first page, I would like to know a little bit more, like maybe why is Devin stretching his back? Does he have a bad back? Is it broken? Is like,
is he a cyborg?
Yeah. Oh, is he? Yes. Because what is so important about that motion that it would get real estate on the first page? Because that's like I feel like every physical tick or motion that a character has, especially on the first page, should be kind of giving me insights into their characters. And so I would just like to have more guidance with that, because right now I'm just a little overwhelmed with just literally the physical, like, I don't know what you would call that, reclining postures. There's got to be a word for it, but
physical movements.
Yeah, that was
gestures.
That would be my even better if. Yeah.
Well, usually we call those kind of ticks or kind of breaks. Breaks generally in dialogue, not always. And it gives the readers a break away from the dialogue, or you're using that because characters speak with body language. You're showing what's going on using body language. And to that point, and maybe because we don't really know this character, at this point there's not a huge need for that. I agree. I got a little overwhelmed with the description and trying to paint the story in my head. I didn't have a very clear picture despite the amount of description. And to me, it was just very much a muddled mess in my head, the imagery, not the writing. The writing is very good. And my other even better if, I'm not seeing any tension on this page. I'm not seeing any stakes or anything else. Now, the only thing that I was thinking about this, and I don't read a lot of space operas. I read sci-fi, but not a lot of space opera. And so I would wonder if this is very genre specific, where space operas start off with a lot of description. And if that's the case, is it just meeting the genre expectations?
Yeah, I think for me, my even better if, I agree with what you guys have said. I'm going to put the cat down because he is needy right now. I agree with everything you said. To me, another thing is this paragraph here. I can highlight it. Our viewers can see. It's the second to last paragraph where he's talking about monitoring the screens displaying technical data. And there's a lot of information there, which as a reader, you're not sure how to feel about it. Like, it's giving you a lot of information, and it's a lot of technical information. Like, it's, the powered turn kept them in their seats at just under 1 G of acceleration. Is that important that I know that? Is it important that I know that the picket station orbiting the L4 Lagrange point of the system's Jovian plate? Like, when you put all of that information right in a row, it's on the first page, and my brain's like, okay, it all must be really important, and I must need to know all of this because it must be important for the story because it's on the first page. And that means it's important. But that's a lot of things to like throw at me that I, as a reader, am unfamiliar with. They talk about don't introduce more than 2 or 3 characters at a time, especially on the first page, and don't throw like too many words that you've made up at a reader too fast because they won't be able to keep up. It's kind of in that genre. Like you've not made up these words, many of them, you've not made them up, but the context is new. Your reader is still new to the planet or the world that you've created. So just a little bit more space, and maybe interspersing the dialogue with this information versus interspersing the dialogue with action that feels a little, why do I care that they're leaning back or this and that? Maybe if you interspersed it with this information, it might flow better. That's my even better if. Not that I don't like it to begin with. I do.
Yeah, but I will say as well, the writing is very strong. This is very, very strong writing. Yeah.
I think that meets Teresa's request for attention as well. I know when I was trying to publish in sci-fi, because that was my first novel, I was told to be very careful with any kind of like heavy world building or scientific concepts at all on the first page. So I know you picked out the part about the screen, but I was even more concerned about the fission fusion thing at the top. That people who weren't into that type of science, like I like science fiction, but that felt very heavy. I might be dissuaded from reading the book based on that.
I would be intimidated.
I would be intimidated. Yeah. Where I would think, well, maybe I just don't know enough science. Where I like space opera and I'm happy to read that usually. So, I mean, maybe that's helpful, but maybe you don't want readers like me too. So I think that that's important to think about, you know, do you want people who don't know science very well? You know, is it okay? Or do we need to know the science? Is that important to you?
And that's a good point with hard sci-fi. Hard sci-fi, there is a huge, huge science aspect to that. And that is a genre expectation. And it can be intimidating. I don't read hard sci-fi for that reason. What I would recommend is to look at Andy Weir's works, his space ones, and really, really hardcore study how, because he does a really good job of balancing the science with tension, and really study his first couple of pages of his work and see how he does that. Because every one of his books I've read, I'm like, oh my gosh, tell me more.
Well, his voice is very compelling too. And he's very humorous.
Yes.
Sharing from our chat here, we have Talia said that she loved the dramatic reenactment.
Thank you.
She doesn't normally like space operas, but this one does a good job of setting the stage without being too technical.
Oh, nice.
And Mark says that he loves hard sci-fi and hopes to learn something new from the author.
Oh, cool.
That's really cool. Very cool.
I hope the author listens. It was good.
Yeah. Should we go to our second one?
Do you want me to read it? I'm ready to read it.
You know which one we're doing?
Osiris, right?
That's not what's showing up on the screen.
Oh, okay. Then I don't know.
The green god is what I have on the screen.
Okay.
All right.
We will have to do, if you are whoever submitted the one labeled Osiris, we will do that next time we do first pages. Stay tuned.
Molly, you take off with the reading.
Oh, I'm reading? Okay.
I can do it.
You did the last
I have it up.
Okay.
Oh, that's okay.
Thank you.
Of course. All right. Here we go. Anda always felt a slew of conflicting emotions when entering the temple of the green god. First off, she wasn't even sure she believed in gods. And if they did exist, Anda didn't find them worthy of worship. Why should she bow down? At worst, they were the cause of her curse. The reason a jagged scar ran all the way from her left temple down to the corner of her mouth, permanently pulling at the edges of her lips. At best, they simply ignored her. However, she entered the temple at the end of her shift following the line of workers. Everyone went, every day. It wasn't illegal not to worship, but it would be noticed, and Anda did everything she could not to get noticed. Once she stepped inside the pillars, it was difficult to hold any animosity. It was a tropical plant haven. Vines wrapped around the columns, bright yellow and orange blooms seeking attention from the fluttering hummingbirds. Ferns clung to the porous walls. Lacking real roots, they absorbed nutrients and moisture from the air itself. Alongside the main aisle, citrus trees held ripening fruit, the smell adding a sweet crispness to the air that made the inside of Anda's mouth pucker. At the front, a copper statue, now green with age, of a man overlooked his garden. Except he wasn't a man. Not really. It was a god, the green god, Hamzai, patron of the arboretum, lover of beauty and greenery. Birds of paradise and hibiscus bloomed around his feet. The line pushed forward, each person taking a turn before the statue. Parts of it still held a copper sheen, his hand that reached out to examine a flower, the tops of his feet, the hems of his pants, all polished clean by the constant touch of worshippers. Ooh.
I really like the world building in this, and the description is like very green and refreshing, and it's juxtaposed to her not wanting to go into the temple, and then the temple is like this very inviting place when she's there, and kind of letting that go. And I liked that that juxtaposition between the two things, and like the worshipers touching it, and so there's this like compulsion, but then when you're in there you can like see why the compulsion is there. And I think that's very interesting because I feel like that really taps into the human condition and our desire to like follow along and get along. And like, I think they said in the passage, but not stand out, you know. But then also, I think a lot of times we do want to do our own thing and break off and have our reasons for that. And I think so often everyone kind of goes along with it. So I think not only does it work in the world, but I think it taps into like a bit of something that we can all relate to, or at least I can relate to.
Yeah, absolutely. The description was lovely, and I had a very clear picture of the statue. I had a very clear picture of the inside of the temple, which was it was very, very lovely. I almost could like see like reaching out and touching the statue. It was very nice.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked to go off of what Morgan said. This idea of like belief being separate from beauty. So like whether she believes or not is separate to the fact that, and even like churches, whether you believe or not, are oftentimes beautiful. The stained glass and the architecture and the like the feeling that you get inside of them is often very compelling and beautiful, regardless of your belief system or your belief system with the house of worship that you're in. So I thought that was really interesting. Like, even though it's not her belief structure, this like she can't hold her animosity. It's still beautiful in there.
Yeah, that was nice. I liked the hummingbirds.
You love hummingbirds.
Yeah.
That's actually how Teresa and I like met, kind of.
It was. Yep.
All right. What's our even better ifs?
Kind of the same thing with the other story. Where's the tension? There's a little bit. And there are questions, why is she going into the temple? Who is she? Who the gods caused her to be cursed? She has the scar and everything else. But there's so much time spent on the description as well that it's making me wonder, okay, why do I care?
For me, it's the character doesn't do anything. She doesn't make any choice. She doesn't, she doesn't do anything. It's just description, which is lovely description. And I agree. I think there's a little bit of tension here, especially from like these first two paragraphs, but it's not like active tension in terms of making decisions, doing things. There's no stakes at all, right? You don't know the stakes of, being noticed or anything like that. So I think that could be an even better if.
This strikes me as, depending on the next couple chapters and everything else, this might be one of those where the story starts on chapter 3. I feel like a lot of times chapters like this is the author actually orienting themselves to the story. And if you cut the first two chapters, oftentimes the third-ish chapter is where, the story really gets going.
I'm going to offer a slightly different perspective.
Always. You
which
should.
Is that I think that has Shakespearean potential. So what I might do, and this is a very prescriptive kind of analysis. So if this doesn't fit with you as the author, like throw it to the wind. But if I was working with this, if this was one of my friends or it's developmental and I was doing a developmental edit, I would definitely throw this idea out just to see what they thought of it. So since I think the real beautiful description writing really picks up at the temple, and before that it's in her head, but it's almost like a shift in style from like the internal to the external. What I think would be very interesting is to weave it together, but to start with like the beautiful lines of the temple, and then you know how Shakespeare does, and then turn it with a negative, and then do a little bit more beautiful, and then turn it with a negative. So it's like she's experienced all this stuff, but she doesn't want to have this, and everybody's touching the altar, but she can't help but thinking of her scar, you know. And so how the external is mirroring the internal. So it's like talking about the greenery in the forest and how everything is lush and growing, but she's not growing. She feels disdain, you know, and then
really
a couple more, and then turn. And I think it would create tension instead of just with, you know, within the like her scenery, and then the internal tension of her fighting her aesthetic. I think it could be really fun to try. So that's just an idea I had.
That's a good idea.
Lovely.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That might be really fun. I will also say the writing is really strong. Fantastic descriptive writing. Again, I saw so clearly in my head. I mean, I literally felt like I could reach out and touch the temple. It was so, so beautifully written.
And I'll say that writing really starts at the temple for me, which is why I would pull the more like the top part is
writing up.
Yeah, the top part is a little telly and a little sharp, and the bottom part is very lyrical and very descriptive. And so I think if you had the lyrical and descriptive, the visceral, and then did the short tell, I think it would actually create a tension and a juxtaposition that would work better if it was a little closer together. If you can see what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're saying. We'll see what the author thinks. I mean, we won't see. Hopefully, they find it valuable or they don't.
Yeah, let us know though. And was there any comments from our listeners?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So comments from our listeners on this piece. We've got, I really enjoy the vivid imagery of foreign plants and hummingbirds. Sweet crispness making the mouth pucker. I think of Honeycrisp apples. Followed by even better if, read out loud for editing. Onda did is a lot, it's hard to say out loud those words right next to each other. And then the follow-on was that this would make a fantastic graphic novel with all the imagery.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
I love all those ideas. I really like the point about you should read it out loud. The first page especially, have other people read it to you, because you want that first page to be so accessible. You don't want people tripping up on it. Yeah.
Good idea. All right.
This is amazing. Thank you so much for coming in and enjoying our, delightful day.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And sorry for the bumpy start, but we're here. And hopefully our authors found this helpful. So as we keep saying, we are in the midst of rebranding. So stay tuned. We have a lot of really, really fun ideas on the horizon. So we'll be announcing our rebrand really soon. We're just hard at work at it because we want it to be strong and we want to have thought through everything before we tell you guys about it. So super excited.
Make sure to like us if you are a writer and you found our channel. We have a really amazing Discord. Join us at Semi-Sages of the Pages, where you can join us for our Race to Rejection, where we're querying and then, counting our rejections and success as we put ourselves out there. You can get ideas for your novel, find beta readers. It's a really positive and supportive community. We hope you'll join it.
All right, everybody. As Morgan said, like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, you want more people to find us, and have a lovely rest of your day.